Welcome to the Bad Mom Podcast. I'm your host, Anastasia, and I have a guest with me on the show today. His name is Kia Zulgarnain, and he is a soccer coach and a motivational speaker and a believer of God and his message. Um, Before I get into the interview, I wanted to just reach out to everybody who's listening. And the message here is positivity of this entire podcast. Um, Parenting techniques for people who are struggling in various situations. So I think you will get a really good message out of it, whether abuse is in the home or not. Really, the message is to just stay positive during these tough times that we're in right now. And I also wanted to update everybody that the point of my podcast, I don't know if the message is lost, it's still in test mode, but we have launched. My message is that you are not alone, and there is support, there is help, and all you have to do is seek it. And I am here to support anybody who wants to reach out and who wants to use their voice, maybe even under a fake name, to provide, peace that you won't be sought out or abused or whatever because of it. I know it's a very sensitive topic, and I'm here for anybody who wants to email me. We can talk. We don't have to do a podcast. I just want everybody to feel like they have somebody. If they don't have anybody and feel like they're isolated and alone, email me at thebadmompodcast@gmail.com. There's support, there's hotlines, there's counselors, there's lawyers. We have a team, and I will try and do my best to help you. Okay? And now we're going to get into the interview. So Kia is a soccer coach. He is an immigrant from Iran. He grew up there in a pretty well-off family. He wasn't allowed to play soccer though. So soccer's always been on his mind and always inspired him to, I guess, just be the person he is. And it was always kind of a coping skill too. Like he would play soccer in his head. And I thought that was pretty cool because when you're watching something that you can't participate in, it's like, gosh, it's like a tease. So he's a motivational speaker, and he's an inspiration to children everywhere. He teaches them soccer, but amongst that, he also teaches them positivity and how to just be the best person you can be and to follow your dreams and your goals, no matter what obstacle is in the way. And he does that through the Word of God, and he does that also because he wants to be a person of God and to live his life to help people find that, because it really does help him. And he also, coming from Iran, Kia, you were a Muslim, correct? And you transferred and became a Christian here in America?
Well, I want to thank you for having me on this podcast. I am, I don't know if people know, but we took the same course together on London Real, and we were on a team together. So, we did our launch together. So I'm happy to be here. I've loved being on your podcast, and I think it's kind of an honor to be on a mom's podcast as a dad. So yeah, I grew up in Iran, and we immigrated here during the revolution. We escaped the country. We were very wealthy. We came here with nothing. And all along my life, I explained my mom had cancer at a very young age. When I was 6, my mom got cancer. So they would have to go away to Europe for treatment. And my father was, wealthy. My father was always gone 3-4 months at a time. So I've always been away from family, for a long time, 3-4 months at a time. And it's hard. I've been raised basically by my grandma, my aunts and uncles, or nannies, or so whoever it was. But I had a good upbringing. My father was a patriarch, he never personally, I said to you this earlier, my father was a patriarch in Iran, and he beat the crap out of everyone, but I was his firstborn. He never physically touched me, he never, and that was his way of, and he lost his father when he was 4. He became the breadwinner of his family, at 4, because, he was a man, he was the only man. So he literally started working, and that's where I get my work ethic, is from my father. So I've taken good things from him, the things that I did not agree with. My dad was a male chauvinist. My dad was very abusive to my mother. My dad was not loyal to my mother. He was a womanizer. He was an anti-Semite. He was a racist. So a lot of those things I've chosen, not by just saying, well, I'm not going to be with him. I've consciously decided that's not me. I'm going to go in the other way. So, and I think that's important in everyone's growth, not to surpass your feelings, to just, when you go that trip inside, to meet your demons and beat them and say, no, I choose it consciously. So every decision that I make now, who I am, I've chosen that. It's by choice. It's a conscious choice. Yeah, I don't avoid, doing bad things because I know I shouldn't do that. I know I don't want to. So growing up was, I grew up I listened to my father. I tried to learn from everyone. During I learned my faith from my father. He used to pray 4 times a day, taught me to do it. But he wasn't always practicing, but I learned about faith. I've always been close to God. I always talk to God, I think, constantly. And at a very young age, I understood that I'm not the center of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a part of it. So I have always learned, I even now that I'm 55, I understand, when you're 18, you think you know it all, when you look back and you get to 25, you go, oh my God, I didn't know anything at 18. I'm just an idiot. And then you get to 30s, you go, wow, what a jerk I was at 25. And I got it all figured out now. And then the 40s come, and, so all through your life, you find when you look back, you go, and it's common, when you think it's the worst times of your life, it's actually was the best time of your life. And the times that you thought was the best times of your life, actually those are the worst times of your life. So that's kind of process of growth and maturity. So growing up in Iran and always spending time with a ball was my refuge, even though I wasn't allowed to have a soccer ball. So I'm actually reverse. I'm an every player, because in America, kids start playing, but they don't know the game. So because I watched it, I was a student of the game and I loved it. And, when I was 6 years old, when my mom and dad came back from their trip, we had to go right back for treatment, but this time he took us. So we flew to Spain, and I saw Barcelona at Barcelona Stadium. And then we went from Spain to Germany. I saw Bayern Munich, Cologne, and then we went to London because that's my mom got chemo. And in London, I saw Man United. If you read Daniel Quayle's book on talent code, he explains how talent is formed, how it's passion. And he says, talent needs passion, and passion needs ignition. So sure, that trip was my ignition. I saw professional soccer, professional football, and I fell in love with it. And I remember sitting in the stadium and daydreaming that they're picking someone that underneath your seat, there's a ticket, you get to play with the team. So I've always done that. When I go to professional games, I pretend that they're asking me to go play some outrageous, hey, so as the game's going on, I'm daydreaming. Or I always daydreamed that a scout would see me. I pretended that it was a scout see me. I just pretended, God, there's a scout looking at me. And I would look around in the room. All the times I spent hours and hours with my ball and in the woods, wherever I was, but I pretended, hey, the scout's going to see me one of these days. He's going to say, hey, and that's exactly what happened. So when I came to the United States at 13, it was a complete life change. I had to go to new school. I didn't even speak English. I was supposed to go in 8th grade. My father goes, no, I'll go to America, land of opportunity. And I don't even speak English, Dad. So I had to go to high school at 18. I was supposed to be in 8th grade. I was little. So I go to the school, and the very first day was kind of traumatic. I got thrown in a garbage can by the football players, and so it was just having to learn how to deal with it. And I've always had this mentality of adapt and improvise.
Uh-huh.
Wherever you are, if you want to survive, you got to adapt and improvise, adapt and improvise. So I was pretty good at understanding, figuring out, okay, what do I need to do to survive, So I adapted well, in high school, and there's people that get on you because when I came to here in America, right away the hostages happened. Do you remember? And it's 1978. I escaped, and the Iranians attacked the embassy of the United States, and they held a bunch of Americans for 444 days, and that happened right after I came here. So then all of a sudden, the whole country's wearing those Ayatollah shirts, with Mickey Mouse with the middle finger. So they're all coming to the hallways, sticking in my face, hey Ayatollah, hey Ayatollah. So I've been called Ayatollah like a million times, whatever, or terrorists, people call you that, and ironically, I was raised in Iran, and then one of the reasons my father escaped was because my teachers were grooming me to become a suicide bomber, to go and join the PLO, Death to America, and go, blow yourself up for Allah, and you get 72 virgins. And it's okay that there's, the soldiers would come during a demonstration. I went to the demonstrations a lot, and the soldiers would come and start shooting, and we would run away. And I was little, so when I'm running, I know what a bullet sound is and how it sounds to hit a body, because I've heard it, I've seen it, and it sounds like a watermelon cracking. I mean, it took me years, probably mid-20s, till I, stopped thinking about it. It doesn't really affect me. And when you live through that, I don't know if anybody knows what it's like to be chased by your own people and they're shooting at you. That fear you face is whoa. Um, and that fear is, unbelievable. And I had to deal with it, growing up. And we had curfew, military curfew for about a year. We were sitting in my room, and the soldier shot in through our window and hit me right over the head, like 4 feet over me. Bullet hits the wall and dust comes down. So for a long time, I wouldn't go near windows. And you can hear tanks coming into your town. So I lived through that. And then my family, we escaped overnight. My dad, in black market, actually, it would have been $2 million, but he bought dollars on black market. He paid $10 for a dollar, and we got $200,000, which should have been $2 million. That's all, and our clothes, and we left. And I was actually fighting him on the, but I was always terrified of my dad. I never did go against him. He's a big man. My father was like 6'1", 6'2". My mom was 4'10".
Wow.
So we left, and we went to France for 2 weeks, only 2 months, trying to get a visa every day. My father tried and tried and tried, and the consulate said no, because we had aunts in Arizona. So finally, after 2 months, there was a bomb scare at the embassy. There was a bomb threat there, and the guy felt sorry for my dad. He goes, okay, we'll give you guys 2-week visa. Go visit. So we flew into New York City, and from there, we just 1 day there, and then we flew to Arizona, and we stayed my aunt, and we got an apartment. That was it, and then we filed right away for political asylum the minute we landed. So I am kind of basically what everybody talks about now. I came here legally. I did not come here illegally. Yes, I stayed illegally because my visa was only 2 weeks, but we filed for, and it took me a long time, 15 years to get our green card, and I became finally a citizen. So when I came here, I going to schools, in Arizona, they didn't have a soccer team in my school. I played tennis my first 2 years. Then I got enough signatures in my school to start a soccer program. And
Cool.
we had a 80-year-old coach. He basically let me run all the practices. And I was the only one who had skill because I could dribble. I knew that I had skill. I knew how to play the game before I even played it. And I was on this path, want to go to college and do soccer and continue it. My high school team won 1 game in 2 years. I have never played my own age. I played from the age of 14. I played U19.
Yeah.
I never stood out, or I played men. So the story about a scout seeing me in 1982. I'm in high school. I'm going to high school. My town gets a professional indoor soccer team. Now, if people don't know the history of soccer in America, in the 70s, there was NASL, which was huge. You know, Pele was huge, 70, 80,000 people a game. So NASL used to have an indoor season, which was indoor, which is Americans created it. It's on a hockey field, kind of basically. It's super fast. Goals are small, 5 players and a goalie, so 6 players, and there's boards, so the ball never goes out. So for an American, it was awesome because, and it's so much action, and they loved it. So indoor soccer was huge in America, and in 1984, outdoor soccer folded in America. There was no outdoor soccer in America until 1996.
Wow.
Now, in 81, a team that comes to town, we were poor, you know. Someone gave me a free ticket to go to a game, and I fell in love with indoor soccer. And they were called the Phoenix Inferno. And they had flames shooting out. It was where the Phoenix Suns, the basketball team, then, you know, played. So I went to my first game and I just fell in love with it. I started saving my lunch money, watching them on TV, and having this dream of soccer. I'm playing now club. I'm taking my game, you know, trying to make it to college. I'm writing schools. Have my own high school team. Basically, I'm coaching it. And I'm only 15, 16 years old. I'm always with my ball. I lived next to a park, and there's these racquetball courts. In Phoenix, there's all racquetball courts. So I'm in racquetball courts all the time. It's me and 3 walls. And, you know, a soccer player's best friend is his ball. His other friend is a wall. And that's what I did growing up, because my brother wouldn't play soccer with me. I pretended I was both teams. I would play with a tennis ball in a hallway. I would go one way, score one way, go the other way, score the other way. And I was both teams. So, and it's against the wall. Sure. And I would be broadcasting it in my head.
Yeah.
I would do play-by-play in my head, and I'd be, you know, I am this player, I'm that player. You emulating. You know, I emulated because I had passion in me, that those games that I saw, the ignition from then on. I knew all the players. I never missed the World Cup games. When the World Cups were on, every 4 years, I would stay up all night watching games, you know. So it was a big part of my life. I knew soccer. So when I came here and I saw the pro team, I fell in love with it. And one day I'm in a park. It's summer. I mean, Arizona heat, it's 120 degrees. Like, it's in the summer, and some guy in a red Camaro pulls up and he yells, "Hey!" And I look over and he goes, "Hey, man." He was Yugoslavian, actually. He goes, with an accent, say, "Hey, you want to play in air conditioning?" And I was like, "Sure." And he goes, "Well, why don't you come here playing men's on our men's team? You look pretty good. Why don't you come play men's team?" So I was like, "Sure." He gave me the address. Well, this happened to be, I lived in Scottsdale. This was in Phoenix, which where the pro team was. It's the only building that has indoor soccer, where that's where the pro team practiced.
Wow.
So I go and I start playing men's league. And the office is a pro team right there. So the head coach sees me with these, I'm the only child I'm like if you see me, when I turned in 1983, when I became a pro in America, I was the lightest, youngest, shortest player to sign a contract in America. I was 17 years old. I weighed 125 pounds and I'm 5'5". So the youngest and the lightest have been broken. I mean, the shortest have been broken a bunch of times. The lightest, it hasn't yet. I don't think. No one's less than 125 pounds have turned pro. And it was, to me, was like, so the story goes like, and I'm playing in this men's league. And if I tell you the story, it's just such a miracle. And it's a complete, and I understand it's a miracle. It's God definitely had a hand in it. But he does listen to everything we ask. It's what I wanted. So he just, I mean, think about it. If now that I look back in retrospect, like, what are the chances that I came from Iran, landed in Phoenix, Arizona, that just happened to have indoor soccer? And back then, in 1983, they needed 3 Americans on a roster. You had to have 3 Americans in a roster, but there was not even any Americans who could play. So because I went to high school, that counted as an American. So there was like, that's kind of why I got, like, how would you get, I mean, I was a free agent. I didn't get drafted right out of high school, my high school. So it's an incredible, like, odds, you know, if you want to think about it. So, and to this, I was like, how did that happen? You know, and I wasn't even like, even my own team was like, what is this kid doing here? Who is this kid? You know, but so I'm playing in this men's league, and then my pro team runs this very cool concept. It was a marketing concept, but also it was a genius idea. Um, so that they wanted to have a tryout to start a farm team. They called it Phoenix Inferno Farm Team. Okay. So they had tryouts. You paid, I remember this, it was $50 and you had to be 18. So I didn't think I was going to be able to try out. I just went to watch it
Mm.
because I played in a men's league and I knew all the guys who were going to try. These are all the men's leagues. There's only team in town, not that many people. So about 40, 50 people are coming to this tryout. And then the 4 players are going to pick 4 teams and we're going to play 8 weeks against each other. So it's kind of a league. And each team is coached by one of the pro players. And you had to pay like $100 or something to do that, and I'm watching the tryouts and one of the pro coaches goes, "Hey, throw him in." Just a little kid. And I always had my shoes with me. I'm always ready. I always have my shoes ready. And I was like, sure, I go in. So I go in and I'm playing. And then they were like, I don't know if they thought it was cute. They, oh, like it. And I showed signs of, I'm playing with men. And I don't even, and I'm 15 years old. Literally, I'm 16 years old. And so they picked me. I was like, what? So they picked me. They'll be on this men's team. So I played 8 weeks. I did think that because it was an hour away, and every time I went to a game, I couldn't get home till midnight. And my father hated me doing this because my father was always, if you're not an engineer or doctor, or which basically meant if I didn't follow his path, you know, it's nothing. You're worthless. You have to be a lawyer. You have to do this. Because he was an engineer. And when we came here, he actually couldn't be an engineer because he wasn't certified. It took him years. He finally got certified to be a land surveyor, but he couldn't do his engineering because those degrees in Iran meant nothing. We owned the probably largest construction company in Iran. My father used to build naval bases, the atomic reactors. He built like 250 miles of freeways. So he had big company, but when he came here, we had to start over,
My parents
So
had to do the same thing.
yeah, so we're here and I'm chasing my soccer dream. I want to become, use soccer to get my education. That's what I thought was my plan was. So I'm playing in this men's league for 8 weeks. And at the end of the 8 weeks, they're going to have an all-star game. And again, I showed up to the all-star game. I wasn't in it. On the way there, someone got in a motorcycle accident. And then they said again, "Hey, Kia, go in." Because I was just there. He couldn't make it. And I'm pretty sure it's all, oh, he's a cute kid, let him go. So I played in the All-Star game, but I actually scored 4 goals.
Wow.
So then the coach, which was Tony Samoas, he was a Portuguese. He was on Pele's top 11. He was a legend in Portugal. He played in the World Cup, and he was a small man. He was left winger. And I'm a righty. He's a lefty. He said I reminded of him. And I was like, what? He was playing a walk. He was like, what? So he just said to me, I want to give you a chance. I think you can become a soccer player. You need to develop. You're not ready yet. We'll give you a 4-year contract. And when I was 16, he wanted me to drop out of high school. I couldn't do it my junior year. I wouldn't do it. I couldn't drop out of high school. I thought my father would kill me, And I had given up on the idea because he offered me that as a junior. I didn't take him up on it. I wanted to finish high school, and I was terrified. My dad, And a year later, when I was ready to go to college, I had gotten a scholarship by myself. I had read to so many places. I'd gotten a scholarship to University of Bridgeport in Connecticut, and I had paid for my dorm. And he called me, says, "Hey, I have a free agent tryouts here for 3 days. There's 80 people coming from all around the world. Why don't you come? It'd be a good training for you. At least you get fit." So I said, okay. So I went for 3 days. I go, what are we going to do? He goes, we're going to play soccer all day. I was like, great. So I went, and I was the only kid there. Everybody else is pros. People were free agents, and people want to be. It was a huge preseason camp. There were people from everywhere. And at the end of it, I was the only one that offered a contract here.
Wow.
And he said, yeah, you were the best, and we want to give you a contract. So I went home all excited, told my dad, hey, I'm going to sign. And so my father threw me out of the house.
And then what happens?
So, I said, all right, no biggie, dad, F you. I'll go live with my best friend, So I'm at my best friend Matt's house. And I was tired of my dad. I've been tired of my dad, been fighting with him for a while anyways, because I knew I didn't want to, I loved him, I respect him, but I knew my dad didn't know how to love. My dad had no idea what love was. His idea of love was way different than what mine is. He, so I realized that I can't sign my contract. I can't even get an apartment. So I went back to my mom, and my mom was the eternal martyr. My mom, I think my mom had the martyr syndrome. She dealt with my dad's bullshit, and and she would she would make unbelievable meals, but she would never eat till we're all done eating. And my father would like berate her and stuff. My father would just drink once a day, but he drank a third of a bottle of scotch for as long as I remember. He wasn't one of those drunk. He was a functional alcoholic. And I remember my mom was went through, and then and I knew my mom knew everything my dad was doing, but she just put up with it, and
What's she gonna do?
I never got.
She's 4'10" and he's 6'1".
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And later on, I found out like my father had slept with my mom's sister, my aunt.
Wow.
And when we came to America, actually, she poured gasoline on. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
It's like she poured gasoline on herself and killed herself.
Wait, your mother killed herself?
No, my aunt.
Your aunt killed herself.
Yeah. And and my father said, well, she couldn't do her rightful duties. So I was like, Dad, she had cancer.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, don't be
He does
sorry.
it to me sometimes when I remember.
No,
So I begged my mom to talk to Dad, so I got him a bottle of scotch. And I mean, buying beer at 17 is hard. Try buying a bottle of scotch. So I knew my dad. If you knew what I went through that day to get a bottle of scotch, so I could bring it home to my dad, I think I hung out outside of Circle K for like 6 hours, trying to finally get somebody to buy me a bottle of scotch.
Hey, mister.
Yeah, so I go, Dad, please talk her dad into it, to sign my contract. Mom, I can't sign my contract. I can't even sign my rent. So we waited till dinner. My mom talked to Dad, and my dad wouldn't talk to me. He wrote me a check for $1,500 and signed my contract and signed my rent and kicked me out. And that was it. So I signed as a pro. They told me they were going to develop me. So I had to live with my trainer so then I went on my path of being a professional athlete. And then the day I turned pro, I heard a voice inside of me say, go coach it, go teach it. So I went to the team that I came from, because I was, only player, it's like a big deal, from my high school, I went to my old team and I asked if I can coach him. And they said, sure. So I literally started coaching at 17. Now that I look back, it was the Lord's way of telling me, because the best way to learn anything is learn how to teach it. So I've been a coach the day I turned pro. So my first high school job, I got at the age of 18. I coached high school at 18. So I coached state team. So 3 months before I turned pro, by the way, I was playing, in soccer, you have state teams. You play for your state. So I was trying out for my state team, because that's how you make the regional team. That's how you make the national team. So the U17 state coach in Arizona told me I was too small to play soccer. So he cut me 3 months before I became the youngest player in America to sign a contract. So, and I found out, there's many times in my career that happened that, I had to earn. It took me a while. I was the smallest guy in the league for years, but I scored goals. So, it took for a long time to convince people. It didn't matter if they didn't believe me or not. I did my job by scoring goals. So I was blessed to end up playing 17 years. I was the 7th person in history in indoor soccer score 500 goals. I ended up scoring 623 goals, over 1,000 points. I was lucky to, play 17 years. I went to the playoff 13 times. I was an all-star 9 times in 4 leagues. I think I'm the only one in the world, in the country that's done that. I was an all-star in 4 leagues. Um, and I developed in the first day in Phoenix, when I became a pro, my first day of practice, there's no one even near my size. Every next person is 160. And the very first day of training, we were carrying people up a hill in preseason. I tore my groin.
Oh, gosh.
Tore my groin the first day. And the looks I used to get from my own teammates is what killed me, because they were like, who is this kid? What is he doing here? Is this guy a gimmick? And so I spent, basically my trainer was my buddy because I lived with him. He cooked for me. He fed me. He made sure, I ate the right things. I exercised. So my life was just basically, because they told me, you're going to have a 4-year contract. The first 2 years, you're not going to play much. We're going to develop you. You got time. So I think my first year, I wasn't even supposed to, but I actually dressed in 15 games. Dress means you wear a jersey. But actually, like, played, I actually contributed was maybe in the 7 or 8 games. I scored 1 goal, which is to this day was my first goal. Was it was a minute. It's like 3 minutes left in the game, and he just threw me on the field. And I was like, what? And the game was 4-3, and the defender was looking at me. And he was like, who is this kid? And he took his eye off of me. So I took off, and the ball came, and I hit it first time. And I sent the game in overtime, and we won. So the Lord has always blessed me enough that at the time of pressure, I shine. I do my job.
Good.
So that's always been, so that part of it, I've always count my blessing on that. Have I dealt with, I took teachers to children, it took me 10 years not to doubt myself. No, every game I'm consistent. I know to know yourself, that's a lot. That's 10 years of 40, 50 games a year. That's 400 games, took me to learn how to be consistent, and I was lucky because, I started so young. I didn't go to college. I just turned pro out of high school. So by the time, so I was in a big league when Phoenix was the major leagues, but right after my first year, my team folded. So I can't go back to college. I wanted to keep going, so I went to the team that I scored my first goal against was St. Louis. And I was there for 3 months in preseason. I was doing so good. And he's like, you're so small. I don't know. I just knew I couldn't do another year of just practice. I wanted to play. And again, it's the grace of God. He wasn't sure out of nowhere this new league starts that only allows 7 Europeans on a roster. And they call the American Indoor Soccer Association. So, I went my first year, I'm making $40,000 as a as a 17-year-old when I was working for $3 an hour at Piggly Wiggly bagging groceries. Yeah, my only job I've ever had is bagging groceries and newspaper delivery outside of soccer. So I was making $3 an hour, and all of a sudden I was like, what? 40,000? So, and then when the league folded, I went to the other league, and I went from 40,000 to making $5,000 a year. Literally, I had to borrow money, whatever. It didn't matter. I didn't have to pay for my apartment and everything, but because that's how the new league is, And that year, it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I went to Canton, Ohio, and I signed on this team called Canton Invaders. It was a new league, and I was, again, the youngest again. And I come in, and he goes, I've heard about you from your other coach. I believe in you. His name was Klaus de Boer. He was a Dutch guy. And he says, I believe in you. And that year, Canton was a kind of small, like a minor league, you want to say. AISA was minor league, you want to say, compared to MLS where I was, which was the MISL, which was the major league. Like in my team, there was 5 people making $500,000 when I first started.
Mm-hmm.
In this league, the most money you're making is like 10 grand.
Yeah.
So it was way different. But it didn't matter because you played. So, Kent was a small arena, only held 3,500 people. But the town fell in love with us because we were so good, and we won 3 championships in a row. And I became like, the leading scorer on that team and fans' favorite because I was the underdog. When you go to the indoor game, I'm the underdog. Here's all these trees and this little guy who runs around and just gets knocked around and gets back up. And I had a relentless engine. People think I was such a hard worker. What I learned, though, you can't hit a moving object. So I kept running. I
Right.
wouldn't let anyone come near me, and whoever I played, I knew, you know, if you're the leading scorer of the other team, what's the first thing they're going to do to you? Kick you.
Yeah.
So
Trip
I
you.
grew up learning not to react. I mean, I wear a ring. It says, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" And I teach that to children. When someone gets hurt, I always say, "What do you say?"
Thank you.
Kids cry, get hit. I go, "What do you say, son?" I teach them all. "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" "Thank you,
Yeah.
sir." So I would just get kicked and I would stand up. I go, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" And I would just, and they want to kick you even more. They want to kill you. But
Yeah.
which in indoor, by the way, if you, for penalties, they throw you away for hockey for 2 minutes. So the other team gets an advantage. Well, I wanted them to kick me because I played on the power play, which means you're 5-on-4. And I scored a lot of power play goals. So it was always like talking in people to kicking me. I remember in my career once there was two rookies. They were both comes fresh out of college. I was already a 10, 12-year veteran, and I remember the game started. We were from Baltimore. I walked up to him and I was like, I look at him and I go, "I don't get it." And I would go up to next to the other guy and I go, "I don't get it." So as a forward, I'm a forward, I could decide who marks me because I run next to whoever I want to mark me. If they assign someone to man mark you, well, I would go stand next to the other guy. So there's two guys marking me. So that means my teammate's open. So I chose a lot of times who would mark me, and I always go against the bigger guys. I didn't go near guys my size because I know they could stay with me. Big guys, I love playing big guys because they couldn't catch me. They would try to use whatever. So I would just keep saying, "Hey, I don't get it. I don't get it." So finally, after the game, they came to me like, "What do you mean we kept saying that to us?" I go, "Well, I just can't believe how two big guys like you can't stop a little guy like me." So, and I walked away.
Yeah.
So my mother called me, a lot of names. I think till 5 or 6, I thought my name was Damn It or Jesus Christ, my last name. My mom used to call me smart ass. And I would say, "No, mom, I'm a 4.0 mule." She's like, "What?" I go, "No, I'm a 4.0 mule." So, so I
Well,
learned that resilience. I've been a smart aleck, kind of helps you deal with adversity. Always having a smile on your face, even though my mom used to always say to me, "You always smiling." But I've actually learned when I'm smiling, it's when I'm kind of nervous. But so I've dealt it, it's inherited in me to be, I call my wife calls me irrationally optimistic. I call myself, I'm irrationally optimistic about life, my view, because I've lived a miracle. My life is a miracle. Everything that's happened, it's like, whoa, how can this, how can, I mean, so, but I've worked at it, I've gotten the opportunities. My all my prayers are answered, but I understand how it works. I understand how I'm in control. It's not, my father was really, he got mad at God. So he was a born again atheist. And I was really had the pleasure of, so when my father finally, I retired at 35. So at 40, I became a born again Christian. And after my wife and I divorced, he was in Kansas City, you know, and I couldn't help keep his house. I was trying to help him money wise. We never really were close, So, but I finally said to him, I go, "Look, Dad, let's bury the hatchet, sell the house, get rid of the house, give him the keys, come and live with me." Something told me to just come and live with your dad. And I mean, I would go a year with barely, because my father would always be abusive. My father for 30 some years called me a piece of crap for chasing a ball. He just says, "You just don't want to work." He
yeah.
didn't consider what I did work. He didn't consider, no, I could be, I mean, I was very respected in my sport. I did a lot, but to him, it was, "You just don't want to work. You don't, I'm like, "What do you call this?" So I stopped arguing with him. And I would just, he would call me after it was on EN. Yeah, he would call me, telling me what an idiot our coach is. Like, you never played.
Yeah.
My high school years, when I played soccer, my father, talk about overbearing parents. My father would walk, I was a right wing outside, outdoors. I was a right winger. So at halftime, he would walk up and down the field, tell me what to do. And then at halftime, he would go behind the other side, behind the other team's coach, tell me what to do. And he never played. He never played soccer in his life, which is, I coach now. There's a lot of parents I deal with that. So this journey of becoming a soccer player and a coach, and when I came to Canton, I started doing all the public speaking. So in the 17 years that I played professional soccer, probably 10, 12 of it, I also worked in a front office. And I had my own clubs coaching. So my life became, you're a professional athlete during the day, in the evenings, go coach. And so I've always hustled, by working, in the summer times. I've always ran camps like crazy, being around children. And in my first year, when I became a pro, I told you at the preseason, I tore my groin. The next practice, one of the veterans, I come back after a month being up, he broke my nose with an elbow. My own teammate, my nose goes sideways. That was my second practice. So I learned the tough way of dealing with battling and surviving, and and I learned, one of the veterans took me under their wing, taught me the ropes of the game. And after that, when I got to Canton, same thing, another veteran helped me out my second year. So the third year, I'm a veteran. And however, so ever since on, I always try to help one player on the team when you take them under your wing. So that part of mentoring, passing it forward, it became, and I learned this, when you're an athlete and you do what I do and coach, you learn it's all about culture. Winning is a culture. It's how you live. It's how you eat, how you sleep, how you think, it's everything. So it's how you live. And if you're a true professional, you're a true, I preach this to all my players. If you're a good soccer player, you have to be good in everything in your life. You have to be a good brother, good husband, good, good son, good neighbor, good student. Because if you're not, then you're not really a good soccer player. That's how I teach it. You have to be good at everything you do.
Yeah.
You have to be, so, because it's mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit, mind, body, spirit. If you're just working on your technique, but you don't pick up a book, you don't educate yourself. So my 3 cores of success I've learned through the years is humility, hunger, and smart. You have to be smart, and being smart has a lot of different ways. I don't know how many people even think about this stuff. I do. Like I've always thought about, like, where do thoughts come from?
Mm-hmm.
Is it coming from inside of me? It's coming from outside of me. What is a thought?
Oh, how do you
How
deal with
how
negative thoughts?
Well, first of all, you have to understand what thoughts are and how each individual works. So there's our ego. Our ego is actually, I've learned. It's taken me, so in about 30s, I start understanding how the human psyche works, and that's just my passion. From the day I turned pro, knowing that I never went to college, so I study on my own. Even the first couple of years, I start going to school in the summer times and stuff, going back to school. I went summer school. I would go back to Arizona, go to ASU and take classes, but part of it I did because it was Arizona State, and the women were beautiful in my class. So I would take 2 classes. I took a creative writing class to meet girls, and then I took a philosophy class for me. So in my summer times, and I kind of felt, deprived of whatever education. So I've been educating myself, and my interest is human psyche, how is children develop, and I've studied it, through years and years, and how does development works? What are
Yeah.
the stages of growth? Is it the same for everyone? How is it? So I've learned it, I've studied it, I have my own, kind of come up my own form. I mean, I don't have a degree. I probably could.
Sound like an expert,
A
though.
lot. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've been around children for 38 years. There's not a child that I can come in contact with that I can't, if I know I can't connect with them, I know something is off. you know. So, and I don't claim to be, but when it comes to children and growth, I mean, it's my life. That's all I do. I love, and years ago when I started coaching, I realized that nobody wants to stay with youth. As soon as people get involved with youth, they don't want to deal with the nonsense of, kids, boogers running out, shoes untied. I value my day. I say to myself, what kind of day you have by number of shoes I tie. So if I tie 10 pairs of shoes that day, that's a good day. That means there was 10 kids I helped, really. And I work because I'm a technical director, which in my business, I was a technical director. I work with all ages. I believe you have to be hands-on. So I work with the 2-year-old classes all the way to the pros. So I've been doing that most of my life. From the time I retired 35, then coaching became full-time. I coach, I don't take days off. I work 7 days a week. If you look at my website, it says TNDO, take no days off. You take time off, you don't take days off. So to this day, I've been journaling since I was 15. I have all my journals. I teach all my players to journal, and I take them on this, development cycle. And I have different methods of teaching. I believe in spiral learning. Spiral learning is introduce, set aside, reintroduce, develop. So it's spiral. So I believe in spiral learning. So when kids come to me, all of a sudden I introduce a topic to them, and they tell you not to do that. But I've been doing this for so long. I'm experienced at it, to introduce topics to kids who they haven't practiced. So imagine this, because I, like my previous job at my other club, we had 1,100 kids. So I have 1,100 kids. Okay, so obviously I can't be at every practice, but I rotate myself so I see everyone. Now on the weekend there's games, so I normally on the weekends would coach 15 or 16 games, so I see everyone's games. So, but if I didn't practice you in a game, if I didn't practice you during the game, all of a sudden something I would see, I would introduce it to them. Hey guys, do this, and they're like, some of them would get it, sometimes they don't get it, and they recommend you not doing that till you practice it. But I don't, because I don't have that time to practice with everyone, and I'm experienced. I would introduce a topic to them, and then I would come. Someone would get it, some wouldn't get it, and then I would wait, come back 2-3 weeks later, go, hey, do you guys remember that game we did this? This is why we did it. So you reintroduce it to them, and then you go, oh. So I've always followed this when I coach, and I learned this a long time ago. I hear, I forget. I see, I remember. I do, I learn. So no matter, whenever I'm coaching, and I teach this to my coaches, we always tell them what we're going to do. Then I show them what we want to do, and I demonstrate. So big part of me is I demonstrate everything I want them to do. I show it to them myself. So I do it for them. And then I have them do it. So I tell them what we're going to do, then I show them what they're going to do, and then we do it. And ever since I remember, since I've been a coach, I never in my life have done the same practice twice. So you could be with me 2,000 days, you're going to do 2,000 different practices. You will never, because I don't do it. I never do the same thing twice. I'm always creating on the spot. In coaching, they tell you to write your sessions down. I don't write anything down because I'm on the field, 10 hours a day. It's not possible. I think about it. My day starts usually 3:30, 4 o'clock. I get up to plan my day, and I play music. All my sessions, I play music. I play house music. It's all upbeat. So when I make my playlist, I kind of go over what I'm gonna do, and then I have an idea what I'm gonna do, but it's never set because I don't know who's gonna show up. I never know, because I work with so many kids. I don't know who's gonna show up. So I might have 40 kids here. I might have 10 kids here. So it's the only kind of work I know. I mean, I've been doing, if you did any type of work for 37 years, you would think you would know what's going to happen tomorrow at work, wouldn't you? If you're, everybody would. Not in my job when you work with children. You can't. There's no way with children that you could say, I know what's going to happen. So because they're so unique, every child is different. I learn from kids. We all learn from our students. Children are, to me, are awesome. You can learn from them. And the stuff they say, the stuff they do, and they're so literal. And then I also, now that I'm experienced coach, I know that every child learns differently. So I have to teach all of them differently. Some of them, and the way I work is, I'm known around the country that my kids are really technical. They can do a lot of things with a ball because the way we train. Well, I've learned that in order to do that, you need to change their brain,
Mhm.
not their feet. If you want your feet to get quicker, you have to change their brain. So that teaches them sequencing, go here, do this, do that, come back, do here, do, and I do everything in minute intervals. So they have to do it really fast back and forth, and you have to remember it, which is really you're training their brain. Our brain synapses they have a myelin sheet.
Mhm.
There's a myelin sheet that goes through the brain. So when you practice a skill, the myelin sheet gets thicker and thicker and thicker. So Tchaikovsky's parts of his brain that played piano are probably like fiber optic cable compared. And my body, the parts of my body that controls my feet, that has to do with playing, striking a ball. Well, I'm sure they've gotten thicker and thicker, and deep practice does that. So when you hear the term muscle memory, muscle actually doesn't have memory. It's your brain that remembers how to function and fire up those synapses so you can repeat that task. And
Mhm.
that just takes hours and hours and hours. They say you need 10,000 hours to be an expert in anything. I don't really agree with that. So I'm at right now at 138,000 hours with a ball. I'm 55. I still spend an hour a day just by myself, me and a ball and a tennis ball,
Mhm.
you know, and a wall or
Yeah.
whatever. So, and we teach that by modeling with children and, dealing with parents. I teach values. I don't just try to get them to
Kick a ball.
just play soccer, So, well, yeah, there's a lot more to it. It's, they have to learn because everything I've learned from the game.
Well,
Everything I've learned in life, I've learned from the game. I've learned cooperation, unity,
sure.
teamwork, joy, participate. I mean, all of it. I've learned, and I was a kind of player, like I didn't save anything. All my medals, I threw everything away because I said, the only thing matter is your rings.
Mhm.
Because if you're not, so I didn't save, my children. I always feel bad about like now. Thank God there's the internet, they can go back. I didn't save anything, because I would get MVP this and throw it away. Throw it away. Just I would not even throw it away. I would give it to kids. I go
Mhm.
here's my trophy. It's yours. So,
So,
but
do you have any suggestions for like kids who don't know if they want to play soccer? Like, there's kids that are living in abusive situations in their homes and they're not really challenging themselves because maybe their parents might not be like into, I don't know, that
right.
extra work of pushing their kid to be anything great. So how do you, as a kid, feel like, I don't know, motivated when your parents aren't motivating at all? You for some
So
reason fell in
so
love with
I've
soccer.
learned. Yeah. So I knew my love. I was blessed enough to find and I try to help every child define their why. What's your why? What
Why?
what's your why? What is your why? You have to define your why. And a lot of people tell you, I love it. The word amateur actually means love. But the professional says, I love this. There's a lot of people who come to me every day and say, you don't understand. I love soccer. And it's funny when they say that to me, to a guy who's been soccer's his only livelihood, to the guy that I would literally, if you took the ball away from me and you make me no touch a ball, after a week, I'd get sick. I would literally, my health would decline. I would be, I can tell it's like my kryptonite. So it's
Mhm.
my sustenance. Being with the ball is my sustenance. I need to be around the game and coaching. I never plan to retire. I'm planning to die on the field someday. you know, um, no, but so they have to learn. First of all, I know like when we were kids, up to the age of 5, they learn by seeing whatever they see, whatever that you do, and they see it, they're gonna copy it. After 5 to 13, 14, it's programming. You know, when I was, I've and I in my when I was about 18, 19, I went on this journey. I read Joseph Campbell, The Power of Myth, and he explained the hero journey. And he explained what a hero is. A hero is a person that leaves their surrounding, which is either their home, their town, whatever. They go somewhere. They go through hardship. They have to defeat a major task or something, and then they return to their home for the better of themselves or their community. Well, he compared all the hero myths of the world, and then he said, and I was reading Joseph Campbell, and he says, well, that hero's journey is you. You have to go inside. That journey is you going inside. When you go inside, my daughter, for example, after she graduated college, she just been traveling everywhere, wants to find herself. And there's a lot of youth go through that. You don't need to go anywhere to find yourself. You don't have to go outside to find yourself. You have to go inside to find yourself. And then after 8 years of traveling around, she's back home. She's right back in Cleveland. She went to Costa Rica, Denver, California, New York, Washington. I mean, it's the same pattern, and until you decide, hey, it's me. So when I went on that inward journey, I try to trace back all my emotions. Where did they root from? So I practice it, actually. I remember my oldest memory is when I was like 9 or 10 months old. I remember it. And my parents have, I've talked to them about it. I remember being under a table, tearing up a box of tissues, and I see a bunch of feet. And my parents go, yeah, we had guests over, and you were underneath, you tore up a box of Kleenex. I've traced back all my emotions. Where did it stem from? Why am I this way? Why am I athletically inclined but not musically inclined? Well, I do remember we went to a private school in Iran, and we had a chorus, big play we did. And I remember we had to wear bow ties, and I played the tambourine. And during the whole practicing rehearsal, my teacher told me not to lip sync because my voice is so bad. She told me to lip sync. I mean, who tells us 5-year-old, 6-year-old to lip sync? So we're at our concert, and I'm demonstrating, I'm trying to sing, and she's stomping her feet. So I think that day, like my any inclination I had toward art died, and then I went to the sports. How is it like? So I remember being like, ooh, what did I do? So those brain synapses shift the other way. And I think that happens in a lot of us. One action, that's your programming that you believe. That's why you have to be really careful the words you use with children. They're really, like when I really want to get to a child, I learned this mirroring. When a child talks to you when they're little, they go, I found the ball. You go, you found the ball? You just mirror it to them with excitement. And you validate their feeling. I found the ball. You found the ball? When you talk to them that way, you connect to them. So, and as when that passion is instilled in you, as a child, and you can determine, okay, is this my parents doing this? Is it what I like? Why do I like it? When I talk to kids all the time, they all tell you they want to be a professional athlete.
Yeah.
They all tell you, but they don't know what that means. They all want to. Everybody wants to.
It takes hard work.
But I've learned,
but
wishing something doesn't mean you're going to get it.
yeah.
Just because you want something really bad, it's not going to happen till you take action. You have to get action. So I really work on with children, regardless of how their parents are. So whether you have, are you going to listen to your ego, which is your fear-based? Because our ego works like this. It has fear because to protect us, the fear and flight, and when you're under stress, why is it like actually what happens during the, when you're under stress and you want to run, all your adrenaline, all the blood in our system goes to our arms and our legs to be able to run and fight, which actually goes away from your brain when you're under stress, which actually makes us dumber if you really think about it, because there's less blood going to the brain. And you have this, so through learning to control your emotions and control your body and your mind, I've learned that fear, shame, guilt, and on the positive side, specialness. When you think you're great, when you think you're it, when you think, oh, I'm the most successful, I'm the best looking guy, or I'm the best. for those things, they're all imaginary. It's your ego, and it's not real. So if you're reacting to, it's like when you're a kid, you're afraid of the dark. What's behind you? Nothing. It's just you're afraid of it. So I've learned to master those and don't listen to your ego. It's
Mhm.
taking me, but it's every second though. It's every second. You know, try not to respond to your ego. So when that negative thought comes into your mind, well, that's your ego. Then there's a gentle voice that doesn't shout at you. Your ego's always shouting. You look bad. People are gonna think this. That's your ego. So
Yeah.
when and you can drown it by a positive thought. So
Okay.
when that negative thought comes in, you cancel it out with a positive. You know, um,
That's-
so and in your ego, so when you learn to do that, I've learned, for me, the way my ego works is, when I listen music, I have my headphones on, I listen to me I read while I listen to music, because when I put music on, my ego gets connected to the music. Me, the soul, gets to free to think freely. Then I can think freely. My ego's not involved.
You're listening to
uh,
classical music or something with no words, right?
Anything, it doesn't, yeah, usually no words.
No
you
words.
know so
Understand.
it's just connecting your ego, not listening to your ego, because your ego actually is your enemy. Your ego's home is your body.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and it's your ego actually is fighting you all the time. And when you learn not to listen to it, it's just my ego, and then the other voice is the Holy Spirit.
Mm.
And then there's a third voice. Everyone says, I hear two voices. Do this, don't do that. It's your conscience, which conscious Holy Spirit. As us Christian, we know it's the Holy Spirit. Some people call it conscience, but there's actually a third voice.
What is
That's you, the decision maker.
it?
It is, but so you have to listen to yourself and learn, is this my ego talking?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Do you
and,
teach
and I've learned,
what ego is?
absolutely, absolutely, not in those terms, but
Okay.
I teach him about fear. I teach him, like, for example, I teach him visualization.
Mm-hmm.
Before you do anything, you need to visualize it. So there's a lot of kids who take penalty kicks when they're on the spot. Everyone's looking at them, and they run up, and where do they kick the ball? Right at the goalie. Do you know why? Because the way your mind works is, whatever thoughts you send out to the universe, it's elastic. It'll complete it. So if you send fear in your mind out, it'll complete it back. So it's like this. It's like a person saying, I don't want war. I don't want war. I don't want war. Guess what you're going to have?
It's a fear, yeah.
No, because listen to how you're verbalizing it. I don't want war. Well, you're going to have war because you're thinking war. You should have thought about, I want to leave peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
I want to leave. So see what I mean?
Yeah.
It's how so if you say, I don't want to miss, I don't want to miss, I don't want to miss, well, you're going to miss because you said, I don't want to miss. So when people take a penalty kick, they think, and if you ask the kid, I go, what's the last thought went to your head? Why do you want the goalie to save it? So where'd you hit the ball? Right at the goalie. So I tell them, I go, look, so in indoor soccer, when someone gets a penalty, you get a shootout, which you and the goalie, which is a dribble up. So I was really good at it. One time I think I scored 17 straight, 37 in 1 year. So I was really good at those shootouts, but I never saw the goalie. I only visualized the sound of the ball hitting the net. So I visualized a positive outcome instead of, oh, goalie's gonna save it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think I was successful, because I didn't I and this happened like twice in my career, which is really weird. One time, because the game is so fast, you got to react to put a goal, right? So most of the time when I pictured it before it happened, right before it happened, I pictured it, I anticipated, I knew where the ball was going to be, and I knew what I was going to do with it before I scored. But when I had to react real quick and I wasn't prepared, well, I missed sometimes. So, and there was twice in my career where I pictured, right, like it's milliseconds before. I can't explain it. I saw the fans jumping up, and popcorn going over the person next to it. It's like a millisecond before it happens. So you think about yourself like, did I just go ahead in time and come back? So that's not actually true. That's being in the zone. So psychologists now understand that because you're so into the zone, you're picturing the reality, and actually that reality happens. So when when you move your finger, okay, there's a synapses in your brain that does that. And if you time that, that actually happens, the moving finger, in milliseconds, nanoseconds before. So it's like going ahead in time. So when you're so into the zone that all the elements, you so focused, you actually creating reality. Because reality needs consciousness. Reality doesn't happen, that at the quantum level, everything is a wave. Unless it's measured, then it becomes particle. Like when no one's looking at it, the double slit experiment. You ever heard of that?
The devil
In the
what?
19th, the double slit experiment.
No, I
So
don't.
there is a wall.
Okay.
There's a wall. It has two slits in it, and they shoot protons through this wall at another screen. When no one's looking at it, the protons are going through this slits as it's a wave. It's a light. As soon as they put a measuring device on a quantum particle, then it becomes matter. It's physical, which means when no one's looking at it, it's a wave. It's an energy. So at the quantum level, at the smallest part in the universe, everything, we are energy and light. As soon as consciousness comes in, it becomes reality and matter. So it's like this. It's like, look, when you look behind you, that flag behind you, right? So I see it now. When you look behind you in a room, you're by yourself, right? If you're in your room by yourself and you look behind you, you see a flag. When you turn around, how do you know it's there? You don't know. Well, you need consciousness to makes it. Even our own eyes. If you know our own eyes, the way our eyes work, we actually have a dead spot. A lot of the stuff's in the peripheral. Your brain's making it. It's not really there. Your brain is making it. So that makes you questions like, well, what is reality then? Is reality needs consciousness? And they found out that based on who's looking at it, it changes it. There's a great study done on water molecules. This Japanese scientist took water molecules, okay, just water molecules, and they freeze it. Right before they freeze it, they say a good word to it, like faith, hope. And the water molecules, it has really nice shape. When it's the bad word, like death, yell at it. The water molecules, it's weird shapes. It's not, it doesn't look symmetrical. Or if you put it in a pewter dish that has, I do this experiments with my kids. We've done it a bunch of times. You should try it.
Okay.
With your children. I've done it a bunch of ways. It's you get first time my wife and I did it, we used 2 strawberries, one in each plastic bag. Okay. You put them in 2 Ziploc bag, make sure the air is out of both. On one plastic bag, go ahead and write nice stuff, love, beauty, hope, joy, peace. On the other one, write ugly, death, anger, shame, sin, whatever. Okay. And then every day, go to it and say those things to the positive strawberry. Go ahead and say it. Think those things. And to the other one, think evil thoughts. Watch what happens to the 2 strawberries after a week.
Wow. Okay. Are they in the fridge or are they out in the open?
No, they're in the open. We tape them in our garbage, where we put our garbage in the wall. So when we go take our garbage out, every day we go there. So we did it as an experiment. And then for my class, I've done this. Or later on, I actually advanced the experiment. I used rice in a little Tupperware, 3 Tupperware. I wanted to see, there's one positive, and then there's one negative, and then there's indifference. So I get 3 containers, same size, and I cook rice, and I put it in a Tupperware. On the Tupperware, it says love, goodness, all those things. On the other one, it says ignore. I just left it alone. So, and with the rice, it takes longer. It takes like 7-8 weeks. So after 8 weeks, the one you write love, you can see it. It's still white. There's very few. The one that's indifferent, it's got a yellowish color, but the one that's negative, it's got mold, it's ugly. You seriously see the difference. But it would be no different than if you just have two plants. Go to a plant and yell at it, and the other one, give them the same water, but yell at a plant. The other one, say nice things to it. Say, hey, I love you, plant. Tell the other one, you suck. You're terrible. The other one will die.
Wow.
That's the kind of power we have. And if you realize it affects in your own life, and so when children see those things, they know. I teach them, man, you're in charge of your own actions, and whatever happens to us, we're doing it to ourselves. We're doing it to ourselves. Everything that happens, because we have free will.
Yeah.
So this world, everything's happening. I wasn't until 40, after I got divorced from my wife, that I took full responsibility for all my actions. I was like, no, 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 no. It's me. It's not anybody else. Whatever happens to me, I am responsible. Nobody else. You can't blame other people, because like our society today is just learning to be victim. And it's fun for them, oh, the victim. Well, it's so, that victim attitude. Oh, because it's a clutch. It's easy to blame other people, and sure, we all get scars. We all get knocked down, but it's your attitude. What do you do with it? How do you respond back? How do you, I teach the kids, your attitude determines your altitude. If you have a good attitude, you're going to go far.
Yeah.
If you have a good attitude, to me, like, knock me down 1,000 times, I'm going to get up 1,001. I'm not going to, cry because I got knocked down. First of all, if you want to be at the top, that's what happens. You're going to get knocked down. You got to be able to tell no. You have to be able to have a door shut in your face. But if you believe in what you're doing and you don't change course, you're going to get where you're going to go. No one can stop you other than yourself. So I teach kids. Most of my kids that come through me, first of all, they're with me since they're 6 or 7 till they go to college.
Mhm.
So I have a lot of children who've been with me 8, 10 years, and the kids who are with me, they read, they journal. We're always, I make them go coach the little guys. Because I didn't have these things. I didn't have a coach. I've learned all of this on my own. I've learned, I
Yeah.
didn't get any training. I didn't get anything, so that's why I try to make sure the children today have a guide. And I consider myself a guide. I'm not a miracle worker, but I'm a guide, and I believe in every kid. They need you to believe in them.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in a kid,
It's
that's never going to work. But so you believe in them because you help them. You can't say, I believe in you, but let's practice once a week.
yeah.
Well, if you really believe him, I have to be there 7 days a week. So I'm there 7 days a week. I say, I believe in you. Come as many times as you want.
Yeah. So
I
Kia,
go 7 days a week. Yeah.
so you have a podcast too. It's called Positivity Plus, and you are
Okay.
one of 3 people on there. I wanted to ask you, is your message is positivity. Is that enough to be a good person? Is that enough, or is there more that we need to do as humans to succeed, to be good parents? Especially because we're molding
But
these.
define good. We have to define
Exactly.
good first. Yeah, we have to define what good means. What's your idea of good? What's your idea of good? So when I became a Christian and I studied all the religions, all those years that I was studying, um, when I came here, I was a Muslim.
Mhm.
So about high school, when we came to America, the practicing Muslim kind of fell apart. We still Muslim. My dad, but I'm possibly more agnostic.
Mhm.
After high school, 18 to 20s, I got into, I'm a pro now. I'm studying mindfulness, unit. So I really got into Hinduism and Buddhism. And for a while, I thought I probably have Hindu and Buddhist tendencies, but it didn't make sense to me. Then I started studying Judaism and Christianity and Zoroastrians and all types, and then I started, when I read Joseph Campbell, I started to do comparative mythology, and the creation stories from all around the world. I studied all the creation stories and what they have in common, and the story of creation of the Bible. And I was really interested in ancient texts and studying them and reading, comparative, like, for the years people used to say, well, Bible's not true. It's just that there's actually 3,300 copies of the Old Testament. there's only 7 copies of Homer Odyssey. Those 3,300 manuscripts from all over the world, from thousands of years apart, word for word, they match. So you can't tell me by, 3,000 years ago, a bunch of rabbis and stuff sat around and wrote this stuff out, and they made sure they all match. I mean, come on, it doesn't make sense. Atheists don't even say that Jesus didn't exist. The historicity of Jesus, they don't even claim that anymore, because they know it, because non-Christians wrote about him, that he existed. Non-Christians have written about about his crucifixion and resurrection. There's empirical evidence. People died. The apostles all died for what they believed. How would you die if you didn't believe in it? So all the stories, and I understood the story. I totally get it. And when you read the Bible, and if you translate it and you read, like, whoa, it and you see what it really means. So studying Bible is, I was just talking to someone about this, is that there's a lot of people who pick one thing out of they pick one thing out of a Bible, and they try to tear it apart, tear the whole Christianity apart because of one verse. And you can't do that to the Bible, because it's like string cheese. Bible has different strand. It has a historical strand, it has a moral strand, it has a doctrinal strand. Some of it had to do with the time that they were in. So it has all this thing. So, and it's our book. I'm a born again Christian. I hate religion. I don't belong to any denomination. We're non-denominational, and I follow the word. That's if it's in the Bible, okay. And you're gonna say, well, which translation are you reading? Well, when I read the Bible, I read 10, 12 different translations to make sure, compare it, to King James, to whatever. I wish I knew how to read Aramaic and Greek, because I would like to know it in its original. But, remember, you're just reading translation. So I don't take it literally like that. You have to get the whole message and see which translation it is. And, but I get it. And there's stuff that has happened in the Bible. Like when I first became a Christian, no matter what I did, no matter what Bible I opened up, it went to Beatitudes. I would like, when I first became a Christian, it was really strange. I'd be sitting there, and all of a sudden I flip a Bible under a table. He wasn't even and I open it, sure, the same stuff. It has happened a bunch of times, because every day I pray to God, what do you want me to learn? Then I open the Bible and I start reading, and that's how I do it, and I let him lead me. I go, what do you want me to learn today? And the amount of times that a verse comes, to me, it's just one miracle. Einstein said the world is made of two type of people: those who are looking for signs, and those who think everything is a sign. I'm a person who believes everything is a sign. I'm not looking for signs. Everything is a sign.
Well, I started believing that too, because it's so easy to get caught up on negativity, and that's the devil working right there.
Well, once you realize that truth is absolute, truth is not relative. Truth is absolute, right? And my rejection or acceptance of the truth doesn't change the truth. Truth is truth. So people say, well, I don't believe in the Bible. I go, well, your acceptance or rejection of the truth doesn't alter the truth. It doesn't, Okay, I get it, you don't get it, but that doesn't mean the Bible's not true because you don't get it, So and everyone needs to understand what is the truth. Define that. Where did you come from? Why are you here? What's your purpose? Where are you going?
People don't read anymore.
Pardon me?
People don't really read anymore, and the Bible's a really long book to study.
Yeah, it is, but it's also depends how you do it, if you really, I've read it like front and back and didn't understand it. Yeah. I have. Then I've cherished it. I've read it a bunch of times. I've tried a bunch of times, front to back. I've tried it, reading a section a year. I've done those, but for me, the best way is, and as much as I've read it, I'm 16 years into Christianity, from about my college years, and the more stuff that I knew before, now when I read it, it just different things when I read the word of God, sometimes it hits you like, wow, okay, I get it. And I'm not really interested, but other people think. I don't really, I'm not a preacher. I don't go because I find people think you're weird. They
Mhm.
don't get it, and I don't try to convert anyone. I just witness. I just witness. I live my life as a witness. You
Mhm.
know, the Lord tells us we all have different gifts. Some of us are planting cedars. That's what you're doing. You with all your listeners, you're planting seeds. You're giving them hope. You're telling them, hey, if you're in an abusive relationship, get out. There's help. A lot of people stay in it. Why does someone stay? I don't. That to me was always a difficult thing. There's a lot of women that stay in an abusive relationship and they know it and they just stay in it. You
Yeah.
know, so till they learn. Look, no one can hurt you without your permission. You know, no one can hurt you without your permission. And if you allowing it, well, you're allowing it. The first time
Part of
that
the problem.
happens, yeah, the first time that happens, it's not your fault. A lot of women think it's their fault. Like, how is it your fault that he's drunk and he's beating you up?
Yeah.
There's no excuse. I don't, and I told you that before. As a man, I have my own codes. I have codes of life I've always had. One of my codes is no matter what. My second wife, she hit me. She hit me with a car. She hit me with a car. She was bipolar. I thought I could,
My God.
heal her. Oh yeah, and I thought I could fix her. Be the white knight, rescue, charming armor, But no, it feels like so. But you can't. I would never, ever, under any circumstance, I walk away. I would not engage in hitting another woman
Yeah.
or a child, or weak. A man doesn't do that,
A
in
real
my
man
opinion,
doesn't
because
do
you touch a man, if you touch a female, you're not a man.
You're a bully.
So, hmm?
You're a bully. You're not a man.
Yeah, I mean, feel sad for him because they were probably bullied,
Well,
you
yeah,
know?
they were missing that love and that developing stage of their childhood from their parent. You
Right.
know, that's mostly the point of me interviewing you is because you chose to break the cycle and you are hope for people who, I don't know, are struggling. I feel like that's a big part of the problem is like, oh, well, excuses are so easy to make, I guess,
Well,
you know what
we
I'm
we
saying? Like,
teach excuse, yeah,
yeah,
excuse. So look, excuses are for losers. Okay, only losers make excuses. If you make an excuse or you're rationalizing, that's a human. I've always said God's greatest gift to mankind is denial, because that's how half of people live with themselves, because they're in denial. When you learn not to lie to yourself, taught myself a long time ago. You can bullshit anybody else, just don't bullshit yourself. Just be honest and look in the mirror every day. Look in the mirror and say, how are you living? And now that I'm a Christian, I understand. I surrendered my life to him. I said, I live for him. I said, how am I doing for God? As long as he's happy with me, I'm okay. I don't care what the world thinks of me, because the Bible tells us we're not from here. We're in the world. We're not of it. So, and I truly believe that our whole purpose is in this world is to break that cycle that was going on for generation and generation. Someone needs to stop it. And I truly believe when you stop it, you actually cleanse all their sins.
yeah. Well,
I do. I really believe that.
I'm glad that
I want to thank you for
yeah,
this.
yeah.
Um, I don't want to talk too much. I got to get to work too. So,
No, no, that's fine.
um,
I wanted to just thank you for coming on the show because it's been
now
it's
you got to come on mine.
it's been great
I'm going to
because
interview you
I've
next.
been building this team of soldiers who need to speak up and be a voice to break the cycle, and you are it. So thank you so much,
Well,
Kia.
and I want to bring you in our positivity plus of what you're doing
Yes,
and interview you in ours. So,
I'm trying to be positive every day. So I hope that, there is hope from this podcast to somebody who needs to hear it.
and say, if you listen, I've learned if you help one person, just one,
This one.
just one, it's worth it.
Yes. Amen. Yes.
Just if you just, I don't care if you have one person, it was worth it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for being an
No, thank you.
inspiration to me. And hopefully, I get off the ground with my
I
nonprofit,
know you can do it. You're
and
gonna do it.
I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to listen to everything, the
Irrationally
Real
positive.
Army's doing.
Yeah,
And Kia, I can't wait to have you come back on the show.
I would love to.
Take care. Thank
All
you.
right, God bless. Bye
God
bye.
bless. Well, thank you so much for listening. That was Kia. He has his own podcast called Positivity Plus. Check him out. He's on the show with Del Goodway and Kevin Williams, and they're a team together spreading positivity to people. During this awful time is the time to make a change. Who do you want to be when this lockdown is over? Who do you want to be when it goes back to normal? Are you accepting the new normal? Do you like it? Do you want to be the change you want to see in the world? Well, it starts right now because you have more time than ever if you are locked down to make a difference, to say something to someone who is in a dark place and give them that ray of hope, that light, that love that they need to hear. That you're allowing yourself to become a victim, then you're part of the problem. You need to get up off your knees, ask God, ask whoever you believe in, find that support, ask for help. We are here for you. Okay, the Bad Mom podcast is supposed to be the hope that you need. Okay, so thank you so much for listening. There will be more podcasts, and I just want to know if I made a difference in your life with this podcast, and I've had such great feedback. So please reach out, please share, please like, subscribe. The more people we have on board, the more likely we can make that difference. We can, be the change, you know. So thank you so much. Bye.